Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We got a pretty fun 9-game slate here on Friday night. We got a bunch of the rest of these teams into action in the NBA as we still are coming back from this All-Star break. In this one, we're taking a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves on the second leg of a back-to-back, taking on the Sixers in Minnesota. We'll break down some of the best bets in here for you. Nate does have his great article as well on playpicks.com with some best bets and player props in there for you. And like and subscribe to that page as we got a couple other videos for you today, actually 3 total game videos and our player props video that we love to bring you each and every weekday. So make sure you are liked and subscribed and check those out today. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Sixers opened basically at a pick 'em here at -1, and that was the first thing that jumped out to me looking at the opening lines is despite the fact that Minnesota's been playing well and got that win last night over Memphis, Philly has looked like an absolute dynamo. I'm just completely tossing out their blowout loss to the Celtics as they were smelling themselves about the James Harden deal. But I mean, they're fantastic. They've been great on the road all season, and I definitely trust them to win this game. Now we're up to -3 though, and the total up to 229 as that's been bet up. So quickly whipping around the other games, the Rockets are +4 at the Magic, the Thunder +7 at Pacers, Raptors -2.5 at Hornets, the Spurs -3 now at the Wizards, Heat are -5.5 at the Knicks, the Pelicans +7 at the Suns, the Mavs around +6 at the Jazz. We break that one down for you. And then we also break down the Lakers, who are -1.5 now at home against the Clippers. That totals down 2 points, Josh. And I know you liked the over when we saw it open. But looking at the Sixers Wolves, I'm not going to mess with the total in this one. I think I'm going to kind of take a backseat in totals in general as we come out of the All-Star break because, as I predicted yesterday that Wolves-Grizzlies game would go under because of the Wolves home splits. It went under kind of barely because it was such a crazy total at 240. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of an unknown. It's almost like betting totals in the first week or two of the regular season. You just don't know where teams' energy is at, what kind of pace they're going to come out at, what kind of adjustments they've made during this long break. But what we do know is the Sixers are very good on the road, as I said, very good with extra rest, as you would expect from a team like Joel Embiid. And they're expected to introduce James Harden tonight. I guess this opened at -1 because people are skeptical of James Harden. And we talk a little bit in the futures episode how, they're extremely skeptical of his ability to perform in the playoffs. But look, narratives are there to be changed at some point. And James Harden is a fantastic player. He had questionable motivation over the last couple seasons that have led him to just struggle at times, just give limited effort. But he knows how to adjust his game. I'm not really worried about the fit with Embiid. You see how he played alongside Durant. His usage rate had an 8% difference when Durant was playing versus not playing, averaged 10.5 assists per game when Durant was out there, and even more when both of the big three were out there. I think he'll get in where he fits in here, and he should still have a pretty good scoring game against Minnesota, which is giving up the 6th most points per game to shooting guards over their last 15 here. The Sixers been doing just fine without that extra playmaker there, with just Embiid going on his MVP pace. They've won 10 of their last 12 road games and covered in 9 of those. They're 18-11 against the spread on the road, 7-4 straight up when they get at least 2 days rest. And Embiid's offensive rating goes all the way up to 128 when he gets 2 days rest. He's had plenty of success against Karl Anthony Towns and the Wolves, dropped 42 points in a narrow loss in November. It's been quite a turnaround for the Sixers since then. D'Angelo Russell went off for 35 points in that one and had a big game last night, but I think they'll sick Matisse Thybulle on him, slow him down a little bit. And the Sixers, when it comes to facing non-conference foes, they've won 8 of their last 11 now. They definitely come to play in these situations, and the Wolves, despite the win last night, still 10-20 straight up when they're listed as underdogs, versus the Sixers are 24-12 when listed as favorites. I'm riding with the favorites here. I'm expecting them to get a win in Harden's debut.
Yeah, really quick, just to bring up Harden's debut, when he played with the his first game with the Nets last season, I believe his stats, I looked them up: 32 points, 14 assists, 12 rebounds in his first game there alongside Mr. Durant. So I don't think I'm too worried about James Harden being able to fit in where he gets in. I mean, he's one of the most talented offensive players of our generation, maybe ever. You can argue it you want the way that he played when the rules were a little bit different before they changed up a little bit this season. But I'm not too worried about that. I think the dude can just come out and ball. And yeah, I mean, honestly, if he wasn't playing in this game, still taking on those young Dubs on the second leg of that back-to-back, right? I mean, you mentioned on back-to-backs this season, there's 3-6, both straight up against the spread. I also love the fact that Philly just wins when they're a favorite on the road. They're 11-4 straight up. I mean, they're about 8-7 against the spread in those situations. But this, as we said, opens as a pick 'em. It's up to about -3 at this point in favor of Philly. But still, it's essentially a pick 'em to me. I'm with you. I'm over totals right now. I loved the fact that the totals on the opening night last night, since the first game back from the All-Star break, there was all these 240, 235, 232 totals that felt like it was pretty easy to take the under. But yeah, a couple of these teams haven't even played yet, and I don't feel comfortable putting any money on that just now. But I do think it's really just about Minnesota, who they had a great win last night. We were kind of wondering why Memphis wasn't favored by more. There was something in the water apparently in Minnesota that allowed them to really handle, one of the better teams in the West right now. But I don't think that'll be the case on this second leg against Philadelphia, who, as you mentioned, Embiid plays incredibly well against them as he did last time. But even just dating back to the last couple seasons, last 4 times he's played against the T-Wolves, we're talking 30.5 points, 10 boards, and 3 assists, a game in those 4. Because who's down there, right? Who's down there for Minnesota that you're worried about taking on Embiid at all? Karl Anthony Towns is not that guy. He's having a much better season all over the place than he's probably had before, especially defensively. And he's not quite the liability that he was. But you need multiples of massive defenders to beat up on these on Embiid and be able to handle them. And if you look at obviously what the Timberwolves are able to do in terms of defending the paint, it's not really impressive, right? They're still in the bottom half of the league there in terms of how many points they're giving up a game. So either way, I feel like Embiid in his mid-range game as well. You look at that for Minnesota, that's been something that they actually give up a decent amount, as well as that mid-range game, which is not something that we would have expected from Embiid. But I just love the fact that this season he has scored a few more points from about 15 feet away than he did last season. Not too many, but still a few more field goal attempts from 15 feet away. That keeps the defense honest. I think that plays super well off of James Harden if Embiid is able to come to the high post as well. I'm really excited for what we're about to see. I don't think it's the greatest fit in the world, as James Harden loves to play with those lobbers, like we know. Guys like Clint Capella, right? And even Dwight Howard, who he didn't really want to play with, but would have been a great fit. But either way, that's not Embiid's game. He doesn't play high above the rim like that. I'm still not too worried about it. I think these guys will be, gamers together the same way that, Kyrie and Harden figured out how to play alongside each other. I think James can play with a guy who's a versatile big man and also just the best, offensive, at least in terms of offensive scoring big man in the league and in the last, 15, 20 years, so.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to do much. You think about what his role was in that Bucks series last year when he could only play on one leg. Just kind of handle the ball a little bit and get it to the MVP, to Kevin Durant in that situation, or just Embiid, throw an entry pass and then chill. Because Embiid right now, you've mentioned what Karl Anthony Towns can do to stop him. I'm racking my brain for anybody who can give him problems right now. You can't do anything with a 7'3" guy who's busting out Kobe Bryant moves all over the court. But yeah, it's a rest advantage thing as well for the Sixers. As you mentioned, the Wolves are 3-6 straight up and against the spread on back-to-backs. They're 3-6 in their last 9 games against Eastern Conference playoff teams, not bringing that same intensity in a non-conference scenario. And they're a team that depends on threes. They're tied with Utah for the second highest percentage off threes. And Philly right now lights out defending the three-point line, and on the season allowing the 4th lowest percentage from deep. Also, Minnesota's three-point defense has improved lately, and Philly is not shooting threes at all since losing Seth Curry. And yeah, you mentioned that paint defense, typically good at home for Minnesota, but in their last 3 games, they're giving up 53 paint points. Yeah. And Philly's close to tops in the league at giving up just 40 paint points. So
unshockingly,
again, Embiid probably going to exert his will on both ends here. He's playing on tons of extra rest, and that's why we like the Sixers so much.
Yeah, 100%. I think, even the recent numbers between these two teams are really indicative just of what Embiid's able to do. Yeah, in terms of overall on the season, it's interesting because the T-Wolves are a little bit better at home on defense and in against the paint as well, as you mentioned. But yeah, in those last three, 50 plus points given up in the paint is not going to cut it when Embiid's just going to be able to go power his way down low. I think there's the opportunity for some player performance doubles. Those are not up yet as we're recording this on FanDuel for there. But, I'm imagining Joel Embiid, 30 plus points in a win. If that's even available, it might be 35. But if it's available at 30, I imagine it's not going to be very high odds. But that feels about as comfortable to me as taking Jokic in a double-double in a win last night for minus 150 and going, whatever, I'll throw $100 on this, get half of it back, and feel completely fine with it because I know that this is about as certain as death and taxes, as I said. So, and like I said, what Embiid's able to do, where he's able to score, exerting his will is really the reason, right, that the 76ers have covered 11 of 14 games against the Timberwolves dating back to about 4 seasons ago when Embiid was doing the same thing. They've won 10 of their last 12 road games straight up, have the 76ers there. And like I mentioned, away favorites. They're 11-4 straight up is Philly. So lots to like here with Philly tonight. Don't worry about the points. Don't worry about getting cute. Just figure out how to bet Joel Embiid and figure out how to bet on those Sixers. And that is all the time that we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Check out those 3 other videos we have up for you today with that little bonus extra game video for you. And until we see you next, happy betting.